Is NASCAR preparing to hand down its worst punishment ever against Hendrick Motorsports? Who are the experts in NASCAR? And what do they think of all the recent drama? Most importantly, what are the likely consequences for the team if it has broken the rules? Want to know then? Stay with us till the end of the NASCAR Zone to get updated. But before we dive into that, do subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. This week, Hendrick Motorsports might be hit with a substantial penalty from NASCAR if it is determined that their louvers were modified in a way that was outside the rules. During the past 2 weeks or so, the journey that the Hendrick Motorsports NASCAR Cup Series team has been on has been nothing short of a roller coaster. After losing Chase Elliott for around 6 weeks due to a broken tibia that he received in a snowboarding accident, they earned the third 1-2-3 finish in the team's history at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Elliott's replacement schedule is now set, but Hendrick Motorsports could get in trouble with NASCAR after Sunday's race at Phoenix Raceway. After the practice session on Friday, NASCAR removed the louvers from each of the 4 Chevrolets that were used by the team. Louvers are apertures or vents in the hood that operate as a release point for ducts that transfer air out of the radiator. Before taking any action, NASCAR took note of the potential problem and discovered it before the practice session began. On Saturday, qualifying took place, and on Sunday, all 4 drivers competed using a variety of louvers. William Byron won the race in his number 24 Chevrolet. Kyle Larson came in 4th in his number 5 Chevrolet. Alex Bauman came in 9th in his number 48 Chevrolet. And Chase Elliott's replacement, Josh Berry, came in 10th in his number 9 Chevrolet. After that, they took the louvers off of the vehicle driven by Justin Haley, who was driving the number 31 College Racing Chevy, and they did this before Saturday's qualifying round. A.J. Allmendinger's number 16 College Racing Chevrolet tires were not among those that were taken away. Any discovery of a modification has the potential to result in NASCAR taking a harsh stance against the 4-car organization. This is due to the fact that the louvers are one of the many components of the next-gen car that are not permitted to be modified. Even though NASCAR probably won't say anything about this situation until later this week, we saw in the first season of the next-gen era last year that when a team is found to have broken a rule, NASCAR isn't afraid to punish them harshly. After running a race with a component that was later determined to have been unlawfully modified, both the number 6 team of RFK Racing's Brad Keselowski and the number 4 team of Stewart-Haas Racing's Kevin Harvick were penalized with a loss of 100 points. In the current point standings, Bauman is in the lead for the first time in his career, and Byron and Larson are also now ranked in the top 5 drivers. NASCAR has made it crystal clear to every racing organization that any modification to a next-gen car component will have severe consequences. Even if Hendrick Motorsports was having trouble getting the hood louvers to fit properly, the business was strongly told not to alter them in any way. If NASCAR discovered something pertaining to the process of their not fitting, any defense offered by Hendrick Motorsports would likely be rendered useless because it would not be relevant to the investigation. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's examine what this week may bring for the company. If Hendrick Motorsports finds something with which NASCAR disagrees but which is not covered by the rules, that would be ideal. It's likely that this is a situation where the team didn't break the rules because it's on the borderline between what is and isn't allowed. In this situation, no punishments would be enforced, and Hendrick Motorsports would only receive a reprimand to remind them never to act in such a manner again. It's also possible that NASCAR won't find anything wrong, in which case nothing will happen. If NASCAR finds out that Hendrick Motorsports altered the hood louvers, the consequences will be severe. NASCAR has used the same 3 penalties for switching out a next-gen part since the start of the previous season. The overall punishment includes a 100-point penalty for both the driver and the owner, a 10-point deduction from the driver's total playoff points, a 4-race suspension for the crew chief, and a $100,000 fine. Since parts were taken from each of the 4 cars, this would be a terrible blow to Hendrick Motorsports. Furthermore, because it is still early in the season, losing 100 points, 10 playoff slots, $100,000, and their crew chiefs for 4 races would be tremendously devastating to each driver. There is currently no evidence to suggest that Hendrick Motorsports has changed the part, nor is there any evidence to suggest that they have not. What do you think the chances are that Hendrick Motorsports altered the part? Tell us in the comments section below. Be sure to hit the bell button and subscribe to our channel to get the latest updates. Now, let's dig deeper into the video to find out what's going on with the prospective sanctions that could come this week. Even so, the most important piece of information about the organization is not about race at all. The stolen NASCAR hood louvers have been the main topic of debate, and many NASCAR insiders believe that the sport will almost surely impose some form of punishment in the near future. Following the conclusion of the NASCAR Cup Series race in Phoenix, the Athletics' Jeff Gluck and Jordan Gahnke presented their podcast, The Teardown, in which they discussed Hendrick Motorsports' current condition.
NASCAR supposedly they already know that these louvers are not consistent or fitting the right way, and they've told the teams though, like, hey, like chill, like we're gonna fix this. It's getting fixed. Nobody mess with this in the meantime, and they need to do a check. So apparently that's why they went around and checked before even the inspection. Well, guess who had messed with them? All 4 Hendrick cars, at least supposedly. It seems like they were messed with. So NASCAR ends up letting them practice with them, because if they had pulled them out before practice, they wouldn't have been able to, they probably would have all missed practice. They let them practice with it. They were all fast. They get the other ones back in that are not the ones that they brought. And obviously Hendrick was still fast. So it's not like that was the reason they were fast, as Jeff Gordon pointed out in the post-race press conference. However,
but it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So now what do you do? What happens here, Jordan?
Well, I get it all depends, right? I mean, NASCAR is very clear on this. With the third-party parts, you cannot modify, alter them in any way. It is very straightforward, and they're very adamant about this. So it comes down to, were they improperly modified or altered in a way? If they were, and they didn't have that, and Hendrick didn't have NASCAR approval, it's cut and dry. It's a penalty. Like that's it. That's the case. So it depends on what NASCAR determines back at the R&D center. It depends on the conversations that exist, and we don't know the answer to this, that have been going on between the teams and NASCAR, saying, hey, these aren't properly fitted. What do we do? NASCAR said, hey, you can do A, B, C, but don't do D, E, and F, right? But as you know, like teams, if you give them a little bit of leeway, if you give them A, B, and C, sometimes they like to go into D. And so I guess it just all depends on those conversations. And last year, when you go back to RFK and the wheels at Daytona, that was the conversation. Brad's like, no. Brad Keselowski was like, no, we talked to NASCAR. We told them this. And NASCAR was like, no, well, there wasn't clear communication. And that's kind of how RFK skated, right? And now, so it depends on what the conversations are and how far Hendrick may be over-modified. So I don't know the answer to that question. We're not going to know until probably Tuesday, when the penalties are issued, to see what happens, if anything.
Well, and that's again where, the narrative for this changes, right? Because we're talking here, yeah. Alex Bowman's the points leader. Everything's going great. Like Hendrick's on a roll. Well, if they all get 100-point penalties,
changes the game.
None of them are going to finish. None of them are going to win the regular season title. We already know Chase Elliott's not going to. And that's going to hurt them playoff point wise. And another wrinkle, and I don't know, we don't know what the penalty will be, and we don't know if it'll be the same penalty, but it's worth pointing out that if they keep the penalties the same as what was to RFK and to Front Row last year, part of those penalties was a deduction of 10 playoff points if those teams made the playoffs. Now, neither of them did, so it never came up and it wasn't a thing. But if you suddenly say, okay, well, by the way, we're also taking playoff points away from you guys. We're looking at William Byron right now. He's got a ton of playoff points, right? He's been in stages. He's won 2 races. All of a sudden, you take 10 playoff points away from him. There's his 2 wins at least gone, right? And you say, okay, well, he's 4th in points. You're going to drop him 100 points. So again, this is early, but if you dropped William Byron right now 100 points, he would go from 4th in points to 32nd in points, it looks like.
In a video posted after the race, Fox Sports' Bob Pockrass said,
Well, it's been an interesting weekend for sure for Hendrick Motorsports. They had their louvers confiscated on Friday from all 4 of their cars and are awaiting NASCAR's decision probably Tuesday or Wednesday if they will have any penalties. Jeff Gordon said this shows that they still have plenty of speed, that they were getting speed. He used the term legally, but that's kind of the way he kind of insinuated there in the post-race press conference. Obviously, Kyle Larson wins the pole with everything legal, and William Byron wins the race. Gordon characterized the things as a kind of miscommunication with NASCAR, and they'll see what happens. You gotta think they're gonna get penalized, but you never know. So they'll know in a few days, but at least William Byron knows that even if he is penalized, he's got 2 wins in the bank.
That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell us in the comments what you think about the video. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more of our videos on NASCAR updates. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.